Hi everyone, Alexandra Jarrett, Jupiter returns here with your weekly astrology forecast for the week of the 15th to the 21st of March 2021. This is actually the very last week of the current year that we're in. We're approaching a whole new solar cycle at the Spring Equinox, the Vernal Equinox, which takes place towards the end of the week. So this is a really, really important time where we can feel a little bit like we're at a crossroads in lots of ways. We kind of have an attachment going on to the past and a beckoning, a calling into the future. So this is a really important week to work with if you can. So as always, I recommend, if it's possible for you, to listen to the whole week throughout as one piece. And then I'll put timestamps on so that you can then revisit each day as we move through the week. You'll get the most out of it if you're able to do it that way. So we find ourselves now Monday the 15th on the back of this amazing Pisces new moon that we had over the weekend. A really, really beautiful new moon as the moon and sun came together alongside Neptune, ruler of the other realms, you know, the divine world. It's the aspect of ourselves that relates to our creative imagination, to fantasy, to dreams, to magic, and to really letting go of the idea of reality. As does Pisces energy. So we're still going to be hanging on to some of that for the rest of the week. Also, the connection with Venus, and that's going to continue as well. The connection with Venus there really taking us on a deep dive, literally, into our relationships, the way we show up in relationship, and our self-worth, so relationship to self, how that's showing up, you know, where we currently are in terms of our journey of self-worth. How is that showing up in our relationships? How's that been reflected? And also what our values are. Our values, you know, Venus relates to our values, what we think is something that speaks to our heart, something that we think is worthy. And this is something that has gone through something of a transformative process over the last year that we've been moving through. And yeah, we're at a really important part in her cycle as well coming up to. So her influence very, very profoundly part of that Pisces new moon. That new moon really was all about the divine, and divine has different meanings. Divine is something godlike, something outside of ourselves, a higher power of some kind. But also the process of divining something means to extract a higher wisdom from it. And there's lots and lots of different methods that we can do in order to do that, in order to be put in touch with a higher power to get greater wisdom, be that through tarot, astrology, ceremony. There's all sorts of different ways. And you know, this very much encompasses the energy that we're going through this week of really trying to divine messages. So I hope that whatever messages you received at this really, really powerful new moon, it's a very beautiful new moon, informed something of your way forward as we now approach a new solar year and we make that decision to start something. Of course, now the moon is waxing, so she's gaining in strength. So part of what I want to do, as always at this time, is to allow us to follow that growth, you know, work with it from the place of where it started, this wonderful dream, this imagining, this important piece of divine information that's found us, perhaps through our dreams or through a meditation or however it's come about, the mysterious way that it's come about, to actually build upon that and grow upon that as we work with the rest of the moon cycle. So hopefully that's something that you'll gain out of today's forecast. The backdrop, of course, we have the continuing vibes of the Saturn-Uranus square, and we've seen that powerfully playing out, I suspect, because of that Venusian quality to the new moon. This is the need for progress, the need for equality, the need for something new and radical. Uranus clashing with something old, something conservative, something traditional, something stuck in its ways, and the authorities. So, for example, here in the UK, we've seen this incredibly tragic case of a woman being abducted and murdered, just going about her business, just walking down the street at 9 p.m. in the evening, leaving a friend's house. And the idea of victimhood and loss very much related to Pisces, but it's instigated this discussion about equality, fairness, balance, and the feminine. Do we have equal access to be able to go about our business as safely as our male counterparts? And of course, this has given rise to this clash with the authorities, protesters clashing with the police, saying, no, we're angry, we want something to change about this situation. And so we'll continue to see these instances of, where this plays out in all the myriad different ways. But it's symbolic, essentially, of this time that we find ourselves in as well, particularly this week, where we are having to clash with the old Saturn, what we know, where we're coming from, the last 12 months that we've lived through. And Uranus is saying, okay, we've got to break out of that now. It's time to progress onwards. And there's a pull in either direction, as we've got one foot in one camp and one in the other. The other really beautiful, helpful energy that we have building throughout the week includes Saturn again, but this time it's a trine aspect to Mars in Gemini. And keeping a bit more of a close attention to Mars's journey through Gemini, because this is where we have our North Node. So this is where one of the signs, Gemini and Sagittarius, are the signs where we'll be having our eclipses this year. And so, Mars is activating. So each time it goes over one of the degrees of one of the eclipses that we're going to have or have already had at the tail end of last year, it's really stimulating that. And it's stimulating it in this conversation with Saturn, saying, Saturn, we're trying to build something, a new community. In the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that took place at the winter solstice in the sign of Aquarius speaks to creating a new structure within society. So the connections that we're going to have from Saturn into Gemini, being a fellow air sign, are that bit more important. And so it's lovely to see Mars activating. That'd be interesting to see how Mars activates that. But throughout the week, we have this building trine aspect. And that's beautiful energy. It's really, really great for Saturn's ability to just calm things down just a little bit, put some restrictions on things, is a really helpful thing. We can't just have everything, do everything. It's not healthy. Mars, particularly off the back of a very, very challenging time, going retrograde in Aries and then being in Taurus, could, in the sign of Gemini, just go a bit full on, bit crazy, bit overwhelming, too fast, too many things. It wants to do all of the things now. So this lovely aspect to Saturn really just calms that down and says, okay, let's take the longer kind of approach. Let's pace ourselves and make sure that we really have the stamina. We don't want to burn ourselves out really quickly. It's going to help us sort of temper Mars's haste just a little bit in a really, really helpful and supportive way that makes what we're doing that bit more lasting, that bit more enduring, a bit more stable. So we've got that in the background to the week as well. So bear that in mind. So Monday the 15th, then we have Mercury at the very last degree of Aquarius, and a critical degree, anaretic degree, the very, very last sign. Mercury is now out of shadow. The retrograde period is now completely finished, and we just have these moments now, these last final moments of clarity. That's not something that's likely to continue, though, because obviously when Mars leaves Aquarius, it's immediately going into Pisces. And with Pisces, Mercury, it doesn't do so well, or it's considered that it doesn't do so well. But I think that really depends upon the approach that you take to working with it. Okay, so it works differently in Pisces. Let's talk about it that way. Mercury rules the opposite sign to Pisces, Virgo, and Virgo loves to have everything very understandable, very methodical, very factual, very clean and neat and tidy and organized and precise. It wants precision. In Pisces, that's the opposite. Pisces is the chaos to Virgo's control. So Pisces rules the imagination, the free-flowing fantasy world that doesn't want to confine everything and limit everything by being in these categories and pigeonholes. It wants to explore the creative spaces in between. And so Mercury being a planet that likes that kind of specificity, it can be considered that in Mercury, it doesn't do so well. But, you know, I think if we consider knowing, understanding that, and encompassing that as we approach the journey through Pisces of Mercury, can actually give us some great benefits that we wouldn't get anywhere else. So this brings to mind Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Okay, this really is a Mercury in Pisces story, this crazy land, this rabbit hole that she falls down. And this has been a big part of the previous year, the year that we're ending, the year that we're wrapping up now, being sucked into a variety of different rabbit holes and having to explore different ideas of reality through this crisis and all of the things that stimulated. Can we do our reality in a different way? Are there benefits to looking at it with greater creativity? Have we been forced to embrace creativity? Have we gone far into the idea of imagination and alternative ways of doing things? And have we gone too far at times down some of the rabbit holes that have sucked us in? When we have harsh aspects of Mercury and Neptune, ruler of Pisces, in a natal chart, it can often speak to there being a lack of ability to be able to pinpoint accurate truth. Accurate information, what is seen to be real and what is seen to be a bit made up. We lack being able to sort of see the distinction between those two. And I've seen a lot of that. I've witnessed that. I'm sure you will agree with me. We've witnessed a lot of that. But I do think that it's a worthwhile exercise in going down that rabbit hole and exploring the unknown. But in this approach of, you know, not expecting that what you find there is going to be the exact specific truth that you were looking for. It's more about the journey. It's more about that process of opening up certain doors in your mind that weren't previously open, and what comes as a result of that, rather than having this kind of end gaming perspective of I'm going to go down this rabbit hole and what I find at the end of it is therefore the truth. Okay, it's more about the process of going down the rabbit hole. And I'm minded of, it's really interesting, the Mad Hatter character in Alice in Wonderland, called the Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter's disease was something that was prevalent around the time it was written. It comes from mercury poisoning. which is really, really interesting because poisoning relates very much to Pisces because there's no boundary. We can get intoxicated, we can absorb things that are toxic to us. So it relates to poisoning, as does Neptune. And Mercury, well, Mercury speaks for itself. So here we have this idea of we're all taking the form of the Mad Hatter a little bit. We've all got a bit of Mad Hatter's disease at this point in time, as Mercury poisoning, Mercury in Pisces, kind of has a greater influence in the background of our life right now. So we need to just hold space for the fact that we are under that influence just a little bit. That tune is playing in the background and it will have an effect on us somehow. And then we're owning it and we're like, oh, okay, this influence, what can I use this influence for, rather than becoming a victim of it? Pisces really, really speaks to the potential to become a victim. And self-sabotage and self-undoing. The 12th house is the house of self-undoing. So we've got to be mindful of those things. Now, one quote that I really feel resonates this from Alice in Wonderland is a quote by the Cheshire Cat. The Cheshire Cat quote goes like this: "Forgetting pain is convenient, remembering agonizing, but recovering the truth is worth the suffering." This is really, really interesting. And I think this sums up the whole week that we've got ahead of us. And I hope that will make sense as we go through. But just try and bear in mind that quote of, you know, validating some of the difficult parts of ourselves can really happen with Mercury in Pisces because it's taking us into our subconscious. The 12th house is where things are pushed down and hidden, and they can be hidden from ourselves. And I believe it's not until we're ready for those things to come up from the subconscious, because we've gained enough wisdom, we've gained enough strategy, we've gained enough tools to be able to handle what arises as a consequence. So with Mercury going through Pisces, information can percolate up from our subconscious where it's been hanging out, waiting for us to be ready. So this is really exciting, where, you know, it's validating where painful experiences, things that we've wanted to forget, things that are really uncomfortable, where we've pushed those down, some of those may surface up with this transit. But the healing opportunity inherent within that is just so beautiful. We don't want to just push things away again. We don't want to bury things in the 12th house again. We want to say, okay, let's use this as an opportunity to really get to some healing truth. And that's, again, you know, Mercury Virgo is all about healing things. And yes, there is an element of suffering that takes place in that process where we are reconnected. This is a Venusian quality. We're reconnected to a part of ourselves that is painful, that does entail some suffering. And again, this is a 12th house Piscean idea, that there is some level of suffering. But ultimately, it's about ending. It's about bringing things to a close, and not a complete close, because it's a cycle, right? There is no beginning and end. It just goes on and on and on, as do we. The work that we do on ourselves now, you know, as Pisces tells us, goes on beyond this lifetime. We're not just, you know, working on who we are now in terms of our embodied persona that we're living. We're working on our soul. You know, we're working on the immortal divine part of ourselves that transcends this particular incarnation. It's that bit more important. So really try and engage with this process if you can. So we've got Mercury going into Pisces. That's going to be around 10:25 this evening, UK time, Monday evening. So that's going to continue some of the dreamy, fantasy, imaginative stuff and the connection to the divine that may have begun with the new moon. It's going to carry on that dream keeping that dream kind of awake in our consciousness, which I think is really, really important. Something that we can definitely use. Yeah, it's an opportunity to explore different possibilities. It's likely to increase our intuitive processes, being able to get information that was previously hidden or covered up in some way within ourselves. Divining messages from source. So a really, really fantastic time with the Mercury transit through Pisces for the next few weeks, of really getting to grips with reaching out, making a connection to the divine. And that means the divine, not in the sense of outside of the self, but from within the self. You're part of the divine that you represent. And divining information, divining meaning can come at this time really, really well, as I say, through tarot. A fantastic time to have your chart read. Look at the transits that are coming up for you. Go deep into astrology, runes, or consulting the I Ching, or anything that you do to divine. That process of divining is really facilitated by this time in Mercury. But understand it from the context of, it not really being... it's an exploration into what is real and what isn't real. And you have to bear that in mind. What is reality to you? It's different for all of us, but there is a consensus reality that we have to be a part of, like it or not. To be members of the tribe, the collective, Aquarius, there has to be a commonality. There has to be a common consensus of what we consider to be real. So explore all of that and what it means to you. Anticipate an increase in dreams and other kind of synchronicities, synchronized messages and information finding you. So lovely. If you've got planets or angles in Pisces, then you're likely to feel that bit more. The ingress of Mercury this evening, that's likely to stimulate those planets and points in your chart. And just let them know, Mercury's coming. We're going to be doing some mercurial work together. So as we go then into Tuesday the 16th, the moon will have ingressed into her sign of exaltation, Taurus. I'm really looking forward to the later part of this transit. Moon is growing, she's waxing. We'll start to be able to see her in the sky once she's in Taurus, and really start to connect with bringing our dreams and ideas and fantasies that we set, the intentions we set at the new moon, actually creating some physical form here in an earth sign. Earth and water combining together so beautifully to actually make the flow, make the idea, make the fantasy, give it some form, give it some actual body and shape. So I'm really looking forward to this. And, she's going to be sextiling everything as she moves through. So initially it will be a sextile to that Mercury, which again is going to facilitate the journey that Mercury is taking us on. Then it will sextile Neptune, Venus, the Sun. It's going to sextile the aspect to the new moon. So really, really beautiful connections there for us over the next couple of days with the passage of moon through Taurus. The other really, really lovely aspect that we've got going on today is the Sun is going to also be sextiling Pluto. So this is, let me take off that trine just for the moment. Let me move Mercury. So again, we've got this sextile between water and earth. So it's really powerfully presenting an opportunity for us to make something real. With the Sun and Pluto, this talks to an increase in our determination, in our will to be something or to make something happen in a specific way. The intensification of Pluto can make us feel more powerful. It can make us feel, yeah, just an increase in like a dogged determination to achieve something that is quite a fundamental aspect of who we are and who we want to be going forwards. It facilitates the transformative process. With Pluto, it says, we're going through this process of, the solar year is transforming from the old year and into the new year and taking us along that journey with it. So this is a really important time in that process that we're going through this week of saying, okay, the sun's gaining its strength again in our world. The days are getting longer here in the Northern Hemisphere. Days are getting longer, so there's greater influence of the sun. And we're feeling that. Our sense of self, our sense of our ability to have an effect and an influence outside of ourselves is gaining in strength. So we're really going to tap into that with the sextile to Pluto as well. So increase in determination and personal power, supporting our efforts to align with our truth as well. Pluto really being about that, I'm not doing the bullshit. Pluto doesn't like bullshit. Pluto's saying, what's the real truth? And it's saying to us here, it's offering us this truth of saying, it's opportunity, sorry, the sextile is offering us the opportunity to really align ourselves with that and transform the way that we show up in the world. The sun, our sun, how does it light the sky of the world? What rays does it transmit onto the collective? Are they rays that help to facilitate compassion, love, understanding of our unity, which is, the sun in Pisces. That's what the sun in Pisces wants. It wants us to understand our basic fundamental connection to each other. Does it facilitate the goodness that is inherent within that? And if not, what ways does it need to transform? So a lovely, lovely opportunity that we have through that sextile on Tuesday. Going into Wednesday then, so this is Mercury's day. And this is a really interesting combination that we have between Mars in Gemini and Chiron over there in Aries. Again, it's a sextile, so we can see that we've got an opportunity here that we can tap into if we engage with the process, if we meet it halfway, or do a little bit of work. Now, this is really interesting. On Sunday, as we were kind of coming out of the new moon, the moon met up with Chiron. So think back to Sunday. What was going on? What were the Chiron kind of themes that were coming up for you then? Themes around patterns of behaving that are informed by feelings of rejection, feelings of abandonment, feelings of not being as good or worthy as other people are, and how we feel the need to overcompensate for just generally not feeling good enough or not feeling as good as other people. Any issues around these themes, any issues that relate to that real triggering core wound that we all have, that real sensitive spot, and the patterns, the programming of the way that we show up emotionally in our lives and in the ways that we seek to feel safe in our life. Think back to Sunday, because that was when the moon was really powerfully activating that stuff. And now Mars in this sextile says, okay, we can use Mars to our own advantage. Mars is wonderful. Mars is a knife. Mars is a flame. So this is saying we can have an opportunity to just be done with something, to separate ourselves from it, which is what Mars wants to do. It wants to separate. It's the opposite of Venus energy. Venus wants to connect things. Mars wants to separate things. So how can you use that to your ability then as you move the dream forward, as you grow upon this dream and this idea, this intention that was set with the new moon? What now needs to be left behind that is something, something that's more about your wound than the truth of who you are, the Sun Pluto sextile from the previous day, the real truth of who you are, not just how you've got into the habit of showing up informed by this pain or painful experiences. So we can really use Mars to our benefit, a cord cutting, essentially, a cord cutting kind of vibration, or, that kind of experience that we can have of just saying, no, that's not who I am. I'm separating myself from that now. That's going to perfect overnight, okay? This speaks to a very liberating separation. Informed, Gemini, Mars in Gemini here is about information. It's about the Mercury journey again. So this is saying, I've gained some wisdom. Chiron was a centaur and a very wise being. He was a teacher as well as a healer. So we are considering, what are the ways that my journey, my healing journey, or my journey with my pain, my core wound, what's the information and the wisdom that I've distilled from that, that I just, I can consolidate at this time and say, well, I don't need that anymore. I can leave that behind. I can liberate myself from having to show up in that lesson. Gemini Sag is the educational axis. And this is the school. This is like primary, secondary school. This is, the basic life lessons. So this is saying, do you know what? I don't need that lesson anymore. I'm done with it. I get the wisdom I've gained in wisdom through my the experiences on my healing journey, and without judging them. It doesn't really matter, whether they've been, positive or what we would call desirable experiences or less desirable experiences. The wisdom that we can percolate from them is just as valuable. In fact, often more so. It's the difficult lessons that leave the most lasting imprint. So yeah, what wisdom have you gained on your healing path that's now going to facilitate a liberation as we move forward? Mars approaching the North Node, our North Node of destiny there, and wanting to pull us towards that point and away from the past. Moving on then to Thursday the 18th. So this is where we have the moon developing into a trine, moving on through Taurus there, and creating a trine aspect over to Pluto. Really, really beautiful energy here. Again, just tapping us in off the back of that sextile to Pluto earlier in the week, saying, okay, here really is this ease of being able to take our emotional patterning through the process of death and rebirth and truly become the phoenix that rises from the ashes. All right. And this is in a very embodied, literal way, because these are earth signs. Okay. So they're very physical and tangible. So, actually seeing that showing up in your life in very material ways. So what adds into this very, very beautifully is Venus will be sextiling Pluto as well. Venus being the ruler of the moon at this time, because Venus rules Taurus. So a lovely, lovely amount of receptivity between the moon and Venus here. And then this transformational connection that says, what am I all about? What are my values all about going forwards? Now, this week really is this time when we're bringing to a close the last year and preparing to begin the new year. And so one of the most profound journeys that we've been on with the COVID crisis and all of the, the subtexts and offspins of that story has really been about the journey our values have gone on, both individually and collectively. We've learned to value some aspects of our lives a little bit more than perhaps we did before. And conversely, we've changed what we see as worthy going forwards. Our relationships have gone through some tests, our friendships, our connections to other people, the way we connect to other people. Most importantly, though, the way that we connect to resources. Taurus, Taurus rules the kind of the basic survival resources of life. So it rules money. Our relationship to shopping and spending and consuming has gone through a radical change. We may have found that, lockdown, if we were previously going out to work, for example, another Taurus thing, we were spending money on travel and, picking up that coffee on the way to work and popping into this shop on the way home. Not doing those things as potentially created a scenario where we're not spending as much money on frivolous things and things that are ultimately damaging to Gaia, to the earth, Taurus. Not spending money on petrol to get to work not only is saving us some money, but it's also meaning there's less fumes going into the atmosphere. So there's some real bonuses that we can see. People have explored parts of their neighborhood, Gemini, that they didn't go on before. They've had strengthened relationships with people and family, children, by homeschooling them, having these really valuable experiences that ordinarily we wouldn't have had. And that's allowed us to just, experience things out of the norm, which very much is Pisces. It's like saying, what does life look like if we actually work from home? Well, people are happier, they're healthier, they've got more time to themselves, like greater flexibility to be all of the things that we need to be as a human, rather than just kind of robots that show up at 9 o'clock and punch in and punch out at 6 o'clock. It's really giving us that opportunity to just explore what things could be like. So this is a wonderful time just to reflect upon the adjustments that have been made to our value systems and the things that we love and value in society, where that's coming to clashes as well, including clashing with like old parts of ourselves. That Saturn-Uranus square is a very internal process. There's parts of ourselves that want to be progressive and challenge the norm and break out and be radical. And then there's other parts of us that still Saturnian says, well, I quite like this old way of doing things. Like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's hold on to some of this safety and support that the old ways can offer. So this is a really, really beautiful scene that really, really facilitates that harmonization of the transformation of our Venusian natures that we've gone through. Really, really beautiful energy. Let me see what else. Capturing the dream. Yeah, so it's capturing the dream and making it real as the moon goes through Taurus. And once she's finished sextiling Venus, of course, then she's going to sextile the degree of the new moon. 23 degrees of Pisces was where the new moon took place. So she's going to be building on the seeds that were sown at that time. And talking of seeds, if you're a gardener like me, I am loving this day to plant those seeds. Thursday morning, very much so. Thursday being Jupiter's day, so a little bit more Piscean kind of influence. Really great day to sow some seeds. metaphorical or literal or both. Going then into Friday the 19th. Friday the 19th is New Year's Eve, people. This is like the last day of the current solar cycle. If you are interested in joining my fortnightly astrology group, this would be a great week to join us. I'll be taking a really, really deep dive into the equinox chart. So that's Friday evening from 7 on Zoom. And yeah, so this is New Year's Eve. And what do we do on New Year's Eve? You know, this is the natural cycle of the year. This isn't the man-made Gregorian calendar kind of adaptation of natural cycles. This is the natural cycle. You know, this is when it's the very last day when the moon has greater influence. Sun rules day, moon rules night. So when day and night come into equal balance, which they do at the equinox, then both masculine and feminine, night and day, have equal influence over us for a couple of days around that. So we're moving out of a time where nighttime, where the moon, where the irrational sides, the emotional sides of ourselves have had more dominance. We've wanted to be at home more. We've wanted to focus on comforting ourselves, nurturing ourselves, nourishing ourselves, as we do when we go through winter and, you know, the moon is more dominant, that the night is a bigger part of our lives than the day. So this is it. This is the day on Friday, Venus's day, when we say thank you very much to the moon and the night and all that gave us, all the beauty that gave us. And then we kind of have to move into the more masculine, the more rational, the more expressive way of being as we move forward past the equinox. And it's the solar essence. It's taking us out of the home, getting us back outside and being productive, rather than kind of, you know, being just involved in the inner world. It's more of the outer world. So it's New Year's Eve. It's the last night of the dominance of the night. So the sun is obviously at 29 degrees of Pisces. So, you know, such a powerful degree. It's the last degree of Pisces, but it's the last degree of the zodiac. You know, everything starts at 0 degrees Aries. So, you know, this is the final degree, and this is a great time to cut ties with what you want to be left behind in the previous year, the year that we've just come through. So, you know, this is the time where our process of distilling our meaning from the past year comes to an end now, as we really prepare to say, okay, welcoming in the new. So Friday is the last time to remove that. And as I say, do join me, Pisces. Come and swim along to my little group. It's very informal, and we'll be hanging out together and talking about each other's charts. And I'll be looking at everyone's charts for them. And we'll take a really, really deep dive into the charts of the equinox, past and future, and how we can work with those, how that can inform us as we go forward. So the moon at this time also then moves into Gemini. So she'll be approaching Mars and the North Node as well. So this is really saying the future, the future. North Node is all about like going forward. Mars is saying, let's go forward. So lots more kind of pulling us out of the nighttime and saying, okay, it's time to step into the daylight a little bit more. Yeah, so she's going to meet up with Mars and the North Node overnight. Of course, that's going to really nicely activate or reactivate or just kind of tune us in a little bit more to the Mars-Saturn trine that, as I said at the beginning, is building all week. So this will be a moment where we really start to feel that, and that determination to really run the course or move forward in a paced, strategic way that's going to last the distance. I really, really love that this is happening alongside of it. Yeah, so join me on Friday night. I'd love to see you there. Saturday is Saturn's day, and so this is the vernal equinox. Sun enters Aries, crossing the Aries point at around 9:30 a.m. in the UK. So Saturn's day, really, you know, again, is going to capture this energy of Saturn-Mars trine. Mars being the ruler of Aries and Saturday being Saturn's day. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a gift, really. And yeah, we're starting again. It's Happy New Year time. What's that year going to look like? What do you want it to look like? A big part of that will be, you know, the intentions that you set at the Pisces New Moon. Venus at this time, she's kind of following very, very closely to the sun. And I'll talk a bit more about that next week in terms of the importance of where she's at in her cycle. But so she then gets to the very final degree of Pisces at the same time. So she's finishing up the journey of, you know, this greater compassion, this greater idea of how we benefit from being connected to source, and really tapping us into unconditional love, the feelings of unconditional love, and how we're going to take that forward with us when she then moves into Aries. There's something of sacrifice when we think of Saturn, you know, the pictures of Saturn as the Grim Reaper or as death. He has this sickle. It's very closely associated with harvest, you know, that very much about, you know, karma. We reap what we sow. With that sickle is what he's reaping what he's sown. And sacrifice, again, is this Piscean energy of self-sacrifice, and that's not always a good thing. So we need to identify when that's gone just a little bit too far. We can become martyrs with Pisces energy. But it's really saying, I need to sacrifice something and leave it behind now, as I move forward into this new year. As we kind of leave behind the moon's dominance and start to just get a little bit more Saturnian about things, which is very pragmatic. It's very rational. It's just saying, okay, that's all very lovely, but reality check says, yeah, in the ideal world, and we have to have space for the ideal world because otherwise we'll never create one. But the ideal world, there's aspects of that isn't helpful and supportive going forwards. So some of that needs to be left behind. We have to sacrifice some of the sleepy, dreamy romanticism in order to actually get some stuff done and in order to achieve our goals. Saturn, you know, really wants us to achieve our goals. So we're letting go, and we're sacrificing something of the old self as we're kind of rebirthed into a new incarnation. As we go then into Sunday the 21st, we have Moon will come into square that Venus, as she's at the very last degree of Pisces. So we're going to have a square, a mutable square there. And what a mutable square is all about, of course, is, you know, the push to change, the push to transform, to leave something behind. Now, this kind of happens alongside or simultaneously, basically with Venus being at the last degree of Pisces and Moon being at the last degree of Gemini. Basically, they're going to be in square to each other as the Venus ingresses Aries and as Moon ingresses Cancer. So this is the first quarter square aspect that we have. So this is 7 days on from our new moon, and it's 7 days before the full moon that we're moving into, which will be ruled by Venus. This is really, really important and a big part, I think, of the equinox process that we're going through. You know, it's this challenge. Moon is in her own sign here, so it's almost like she's trying to hang on to her dominance, whereas the sun's saying, no, it's my turn now, you need to let go. Something habitual, something old needs to be let go of. And you know, that can feel challenging. Venus is moving into a Mars-ruled sign, so she's not really quite as happy there. She loves being in Pisces, but she's not quite so keen on being in Aries, because this is very Martian. So, you know, Martian things want to separate and they want to be fast. And Venus just wants to chill. She wants to chill and connect things together and have softness. So, you know, there's quite a jarring that's going on that day, essentially, as we're forced to say, okay, yeah, I'm ready. The idea of what I set at the new moon, if I'm going to really bring that into being, if I'm really going to manifest this dream that I've had, it's going to require me to make quite a profound adjustment within myself. And I see here that adjustment being between feminine and masculine, between dark and light, night and day, yin and yang. You know, it's really harmonizing the feminine and masculine. And that's, you know, we're coming into a Libra full moon. So, you know, she's the scales, right? She's all about balance and harmony. That's what she wants more than anything. So as we move towards that full moon, we're really saying, you know, I've got to do a piece of work here on balancing the feminine and the masculine within myself in order to, you know, achieve the aims. And so I think the provocation of Venus going into a Mars sign at that time is going to facilitate drawing our attention to that. Am I receptive? Okay. The moon is, it's the vessel. Okay. It wants to receive. She receives the sun's light and then she reflects. So it's a very inner process of reflecting, receiving something and then reflecting on it. It's soft, it's gentle, it's slow, it's, you know, it's something that requires a feminine approach to it. Okay, seeing the beauty in something, seeing the worth and value in something. So that's the kind of the feminine side of ourselves. Am I open to receiving? What's my relationship to my sense of worth and how I receive? What's my relationship to making connections? Give and take within relationships is a big deal with this sort of stuff. Am I putting in an equal amount of what I'm getting out? All of these kind of issues of worth. And then on the other side, you know, the masculine is our expressive energy. All right. It's, if we think of the spear, right, the spear that's coming out of Mars is saying, you know, I want to make something happen out there, outside of myself. You know, the moon's receptivity is an inner process where the sun and Mars is, the masculine is outside. I need to make something happen outside of myself. So do we have that level of confidence within ourselves that we can put ourselves out there, make something happen? Do we have that strength, that confidence in our ability to express ourselves, literally put something of ourselves out there, make things happen, you know, put energy into something? You know, so it's balancing these female and masculine, and we could go on all day about the differences between the feminine and the masculine, but just some ideas there, just to help you, you know, assess, you know, am I balanced? Because it's equinox time and equal. So we need to consider these things. I think that would be time well spent anyway. So there's a tension here as the moon has to kind of lessen her grip and her influence on our lives and yield to the more dominant now sun as he starts to be, and it's more about, you know, solar energy as we move forward. The Mars-Saturn trine then that we've been building up to all week, this is going to perfect on Sunday night. So we're really going to feel, you know, alongside on Sunday, this tension, this clash, this battle, this challenge of manifesting the dream by bringing equality of feminine and masculine. You know, that runs concurrently with the perfection of this Mars-Saturn trine, which is all about, you know, having this long-lasting determination to make something happen, not just in a very fleeting way, not in a fickle way that sometimes Mars can be, because Mars can be a little impatient. So it could rather doing something to achieve an end now and sacrifice a lot of its energy. But really what this is saying is, can we just slow that process down, have some delayed gratification? What we're trying to make happen, what we're trying to achieve, the desire we're trying to grasp or spear, you know, what is it that we're trying to spear? Delayed gratification, like waiting for the right time. Can't just lob, you know, if we're trying to catch dinner, you know, thinking of Mars as the warrior or as the hunter, you know, if we're trying to catch dinner for the tribe, we can't just go around being really rash and impulsive with our Martian energy and just indiscriminately throwing spears at everything that moves. We need to just hold back a bit and strategize and take our time and really get it right. And then you know, it hits the mark. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that we, you know, we look through our sights and really take our time to delay the gratification of what we're trying to achieve and take the longer view. So it's a beautiful, beautiful week. I hope you agree, and I hope you are able to use this information, you know, in a way that supports your personal growth and your journey into what's looking to be a really, really bright new solar year. I would love for you to join me on Friday night in the Fortnightly Astrology group. If you're new to my channel, please give it a like, a love, a share, drop me a comment. But most importantly, subscribe to my channel, and that will really support the work that I do, and it will help other people find my channel and what I offer up on it. So yeah, have a beautiful week. Lots of love. Bye for now.